So far away, Lucas and lovely audience at home, welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, the series where I scour the lengths and breadths of the internet to find a wiki on something I want to talk about. And today, we're talking about one of my comfort shows. And Lucas, I have many comfort shows, and I'm going to give you a clue and see if you can guess. It concerns an American doctor, and it aired on Channel 4 every morning before myself or you probably went to school.
Is it ER?
It's not ER, it's Frasier Crane.
I am wounded!
So far away, Lucas, first of all, what is your familiarity with the Frasier Crane character?
Well, I am aware that they are from Cheers, which I have not watched. I am aware that they then span Frasier's character off into Frasier, which I have not watched. And I have also not watched the reboot of Frasier either, so I'm aware that Kelsey Grammer is just like a big dick hero, and I am aware that, you know, Cheers and Frasier existed really kind of before my time, and just I've got clips for Fact Fiend videos and Wiki Weekends videos, but I've not sat down and watched anything before.
The thing that I like about Frasier is I call it my comfort show, because it's just like, you know, I like the characters, and that's the thing, and none of the characters are bad. And when I say bad, like Joe, sometimes you rewatch Friends, for example, and just like some of these characters aren't nice. Like Ross just annoys me and puts my teeth on edge.
Because it's weird.
Why?
What kind of job is that for a man? A nanny? I mean, it's like if a woman wanted to be...
Yes.
Yeah, just there's never a point where Ross is likable at any point.
Yeah, but everyone in Frasier is likable. And obviously, sometimes the characters act in bad ways, like, you know, but they get their comeuppances in that very, like, you know, sitcom fashion.
Well, I guess I deserve that, but may I remind you, I'm a bit of a victim myself.
But it's just a very comfortable show. And you have a show like that where it's just you like to sit down every now and again and just watch this show.
It's a weird one to say because I guess it's almost the antithesis of what you've just said, but
Always
for me,
Sunny.
It's Always Sunny, where all of them are assholes that always get their comeuppance.
But there's a comforting aspect to that, isn't there? Like, you're watching awful people just repeatedly get their comeuppance for being awful people. Whereas, like, Frasier is just a show, like, ostensibly about a guy who's trying to help people, but he's, like, a little bit snooty. And as a result, like, you know, he often comes to, like, you know, he's at odds with the other members of the show, like his father. But for anyone unfamiliar with the Frasier Crane character, Dr. Frasier Winslow Crane, born 1952, is a fictional character who is both a supporting character on the American television sitcom Cheers and the titular protagonist of its spin-off Frasier and the latter's 2023 sequel, also called Frasier. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Frasier Crane, the character, is because Kelsey Grammer has now played Frasier for 40 years. And that's really interesting to me, because he might be one of the few actors alive today who can claim to have played a character for as long as he has.
Freddie! Surprise!
Dad! You're at my door, unannounced.
Now, there's a shorter way to say that. Surprise!
And of the actors who could make the claim of playing the same character for as long as he has, like, most of them probably haven't played the same character, quote unquote. For example, there is Frank Welker. He has been consistently the voice of Fred from Scooby-Doo since the 60s.
Right.
And I think so he's voiced like Fred for like half a century, but he's not voiced the same Fred.
Go in and take a look around. We'll keep watch out here. No, I'm not kidding.
Our 50th anniversary for Scooby-Doo is coming up in 2019.
Because there's been reboots and reimaginations of the show and the character and the format. Whereas, like, the character of Frasier Crane in, like, you know, the latest season of, like, you know, the sequel to the show from the 90s is the same character who appears in that first episode of Cheers. Not the first episode, well, from the first episode he appeared in Cheers.
Yeah, and obviously there's a big break in, like, between Frasier and New Frasier, but they're still playing the same role that they were 40 years ago.
Still the same role, still ostensibly the same character. And I think there's probably, like, you know, examples from soaps. Like, one that springs to mind is Adam Woodyatt, who plays Ian Beale in EastEnders, and he has played the character of Ian Beale in EastEnders since, and I've got it here, 1985.
Fucking hell, yeah, 39 years.
So 1 year less than Kelsey Grammer has been Frasier. However, he has been playing Ian Beale for that 39 years in a series that airs 3 times a week.
If you don't eat your tea, Mum will kill you. He's already had a kid, babe.
Wait, Mal.
I've got nothing left. I've got nothing left.
So that guy has been Ian Beale longer than he's been Adam Woodyat. Because he played him as he was a child.
I'm just checking here, like, were they the longest running soap actor? And it actually, I mean, oh my God, we have to go down like quite a bit.
Okay.
So what was the name of the character again? Ian Beale?
Ian Beale, yes. He has played him for 39 years.
Ian Beale, it currently says 37 years on because he must just take like a couple of years break or something. But
he's Ian Beale, though.
Yes, he's still the same character, but he's number 26 on the list of longest running soap actors, including the soap The Archers.
Yeah,
from 1957 to present. Patricia Green has played Jill Archer for 67 years.
Good for her.
And then Ken Barlow coming in at second from Corrie.
Oh, sauce, can you?
No, no, thank you.
Oh, but I got it specially. You always loved it when you was little.
Did I?
I see you've been in the wars.
Oh, yeah. Slept on the Red Rat walking Rover.
That's 50 people-ish. Could probably say like they've played a character longer than Kelsey Grammer's played Frasier.
Probably closer to like 20 to 30, yeah.
Yeah, there's a handful of people who can claim to have done what he's done. Which, that's fascinating to me, but it says here that so. Kelsey Grammer has portrayed the character since he debuted in Cheers' 3rd season premiere, Rebound Part 1, as Diane Chambers' love interest, part of Sam and Diane's story arc. Intended to only appear for a few episodes, so he's only intended to appear for a couple episodes, Grammer's performance in the role was praised by producers, prompting them to expand the role and increase his prominence.
I'm surprised that we didn't get the Frasier spin-off of Frasier's brother.
Well, that's the thing, like, Niles, played by David Hyde Pierce, is so good. And something we talked about on Fact Fiend a while ago now, is that, like, Niles was what's called the breakout star of the show, which is where a character you don't anticipate as being as popular as they ended up being just becomes the thing that everyone knows about the show. And David Hyde Pierce, like, famously got an Emmy nomination for every season he appeared in Frasier.
Well, isn't that essentially what Frasier was to Cheers?
Yeah. Like, he just rocked up and everyone was like, we love this guy. But in Frasier, he wasn't as popular in Cheers as he evident was in Frasier. And a lot of people consider Frasier to be superior to Cheers. I do.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk, like, a big game about how good Frasier is, whereas Cheers was more just, it was Cheers, everyone watched it, whereas I've heard people praise Frasier as, like, an exceptional TV show.
Yes, and it's one of the things I like about Frasier is because the reputation it has with people who maybe aren't too familiar with it is like, oh, the character of Frasier is like a snob, right? And you think of Niles, like, they're two snobbish guys, and it has this reputation of a very highbrow show.
Well, Frasier, you're so corpulent that when you sit around the magnificently appointed Tuscan Villa, you sit around the magnificently appointed Tuscan Villa.
Huh. This is the smartest show on TV.
The show is almost pantomime levels of farce.
You look here, buddy. Oh.
And that's what makes it so. The writing is so good, and like the wordplay, and just like the comical situations that characters end up in. I said they're farcical, which is like what makes the show so good, because Frasier as a character contrasts so wildly with that type of humor, and Kelsey Grammer is such an expressive actor.
Oh, fine. Turn your anger on me. It's almost as if you'd forgotten that not 3 days ago I was punched in the face by a man now dead.
Like, just some of the lines that he does, like, will live rent-free in my head forever. Like one where, like, just an episode where randomly, like, he gets prank called on his radio show. And his dad's like, well, I'm going to record this. He's like, why? He goes, well, how often do you get to hear your son on the radio? And Frasier just goes, I'm on the radio every day! He says he's so, like, loud. He's so good.
How often do you get to hear your son on the radio?
I'm on the radio every day!
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of about a highbrow character, or several highbrow characters, I guess, but it's not necessarily written in that way.
No, that's the thing. It has that reputation, but that reputation is not what the show is at all. As I said, David Hyde Pierce, he's really good at delivering like snooty, snarky, witty one-liners, but his real like expertise is physical comedy. And a lot been written and talked about how like David Hyde Pierce might be one of the most gifted physical comedians of his generation, because some of the things he would do on Frasier, where like just little things that he'd do would make people laugh.
I'm not being asked to do anything that none of us hasn't done before in our own kitchens in our own home. Now, quick, Niles, kill 5 eels.
What?
And on the show, David Hyde Pierce is able to make you laugh just with a simple movement. And it's very rare to have an actor who has that kind of comedic skill.
Mm-hmm.
And weirdly enough, like the other actor I can think of who has like that level of like, you know, like physical comedy chops is the actor Nicholas Lyndhurst, who is in the like Frasier sequel as like the Niles replacement, because David Hyde Pierce didn't want to come back. So they hired Nicholas Lyndhurst, who played Rodney on Only Fools and Horses, a British sitcom, to be like the Niles-esque character.
Yeah, because I was just about to Google like who's Nicholas Lyndhurst again, but yeah, when you say Rodney, it's like, oh yeah.
And like when they're talking about the making of that show, said one of the things that like just Nicholas Lyndhurst was really good at is just being funny without ever really doing anything.
I don't believe it. The last time I saw you, you were about that high. How old was he, Del?
Then about 2.5.
Which is such a difficult skill for an actor to have. And it's like one of the easiest ways to get a laugh was just to put him in a silly costume. Because just doing that he would just inherently be funny, just standing there, not really doing anything.
Yeah, there's not many people that you can find that can do that kind of thing, and especially break the other actors around them.
Yes, can you think of like any like, you know, actors who they're just so naturally funny without ever really having to try to be? It's like you said, Always Sunny. I think Danny DeVito's one of those, right? We're just like just sometimes you're just like just sometimes the way he walks or carries himself in a scene is so funny.
Everybody out!
So there's like, there's moments where not necessarily like funny, but more the psychopath side of like Glenn Howerton's Dennis, where there's multiple times where Dennis's character goes into like the horrifying rants that he goes on.
The implication one being a good example where you can see the other actor like Rob McElhenney like getting visibly uncomfortable of just like how like, you know, in that moment, how commanding Glenn Howerton's presence is.
Okay, that seems really dark.
No, it's not dark. You're misunderstanding me, bro.
I think I am.
Yeah, you are. Because if the girl said no, then the answer obviously is no.
No.
But the thing is she's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
Now, you've said that word implication a couple of times. What implication?
And you can just see him try to not start laughing because, like, in that awkward way of like he wants to smile and laugh because Glenn Howerton's just being that much of a complete sociopath.
And he's like so focused on his role. Yeah, like I guess I've got to mention my favourite thing that I always laugh when I see it is just when Glenn Howerton's like just chatting up those two girls. Like, oh, we'll bring our boyfriends. Did you not know that I was inviting you to my bar because I want to bang you? And you see Charlie Day in frame turn all the way around and start laughing.
You just see his body shaking as he's just turned all the way around.
How did you not know that the reason I invited you back to my bar was to bang you? Get out of here.
And there's something similar happens with like, you know, Frasier, like Niles Crane, like David Hyde Pierce. Like he is just such a consummate professional, but as like, you know, but also a fantastic physical comedian.
Hello, Niles.
Hey.
What's going on?
Heat wave in Texas.
And there's a start of an episode where it's just him ironing his trousers. And I think I sent you this clip, right, for an episode of Fact Fiend.
You told me to find it, yeah, and I just watched the entire thing and was like, oh my god.
And it's just 3 minutes of him trying to iron his trousers, and everything goes wrong. It's like a Mr. Bean episode almost. Like, another fantastic physical performance from a comedian. And just, the story goes that David Hyde Pierce rehearsed all that behind the scenes, and that was the first time he did it live. And they said, you get one chance to do this, because if the audience has to sit through it again, they're not going to laugh as hard. And David Hyde Pierce like, don't worry, I've got this. Went out, nailed it on the first take, and when he walked off stage, a producer shook his hand and said, you just got another Emmy. And he won an Emmy for that, partly for that episode.
I mean, he deserves it.
I
watched that scene and was like, yeah, that was just intensely amazing.
Like, it's similarly like, like Kelsey Grammer has presence. Like, he's not as good a physical performer, but he's certainly like, he commands scenes that he's in. Like that voice. Kelsey Grammer is just like, like the gravitas that he has in his voice, but also just his ability to just shift from like this stoic, staid, leading man almost into just like this comical, childish caricature.
Are you out of your mind? A gun just went off in here. Niles bought a starter's pistol.
And there's no need to get snippy. Accidents happen, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I snippy? I didn't realize it was too much to ask that there not be gunplay in my living room.
The fact that he brings gravitas to Hank McCoy, aka Beast.
Yep.
It's like, all of a sudden, just Kelsey Grammer playing Beast is like, you just immediately believe he's like the most accomplished scientist in his field.
It's great, yes. Creation and casting. So Frasier Crane was created in the 3rd season of Cheers, 1984 to 85, by series creators Glenn and Les Charles, as Diane Chambers, played by Shelley Long, her romantic and intellectual ideal following her breakup with main character Sam Malone. Not only Sam Malone's rival and opposite, Frasier Crane was part of the love triangle of a different form of the Sam-Diane relationship. The show's writers initially conceived the character as the role of Ralph Bellamy used to play in Cary Grant movies, the guy the lady falls in love with, but it's not real. You just know he doesn't have the sexual dynamism that Grant does. And it's one of those funny things of, like, Ted Danson on the show in Cheers, he looks like such a creepy, greasy, womanizing prick, and that's what he is.
Do you think there's a chance that you and I could go someplace and laugh together?
My mother told me to watch out for guys in bars.
Well, then let's get out of this bar so you don't have to worry.
I'm going to send you a picture of, like, Sam Malone, and look at how, like, greasy the character is.
Because that's the thing. The thing I know...
The thing I was going to say, yeah, because I was going to say, it's like, to look at Ted Danson as Sam Malone.
Yeah, and then I know him from, like, The Good Place.
Yeah, that's me. He looks so much more handsome. Like, he looks like he'd get more girls as current-day Ted Danson.
He does, yeah. Of just, he's in The Good Place, he is, like, the silver fox of silver foxes.
He is, yes. Well, like, in that show, obviously, he's the womanizer, because, he's tall and broad-shouldered, but he just has that, like, you can tell it's a product of the 80s. He has that, like...
Just that grin.
Yeah, that creepy, leery, like... sex predator, the Glenn Howerton energy. Like, I'm not saying Glenn Howerton, I mean, like, when he's playing creepy Dennis.
The Dennis, yeah.
But I bet if I put in, like, a scene of Sam Malone flirting and a scene of, like, Dennis from Always Sunny flirting, they would look very similar.
Game of chance, simple cut of the cards.
How did you get that?
Get your license? Don't worry about it.
What are the stakes?
If I win, I get to go to bed with you.
Here we are on a boat, out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody would ever hear our screams in this wind.
What if I win?
You get to go to bed with me.
Oh. The thunder's really is throwing this whole thing off. It's making everything I say seem sinister, which it's not intended to be.
Forget it.
I understand. You'd rather earn it.
Why don't I come in your room? Come in your room. That's not what I meant. I would like to go in your room. And I suspect that maybe you might say no, and yet I also feel like maybe you wouldn't dare.
Oh, God. I didn't realise that. Because, yeah, in my head, I've seen clips of Cheers, and I know Ted Danson was in it, but he's such, like, the clean-cut silver fox in The Good Place that I know him from.
In Cheers,
like 30 years later.
In Cheers, he's like a womanizing alcoholic.
Yeah.
It's charming. You know, his character does undergo a lot of growth, but it's just the look. It's like, because it's like so, like, you know, the high-waisted jeans and the tucked-in shirt, and it's like, it's like, oh, he's that character.
Oh, man.
But anyway, so John Lithgow was originally chosen by Cheers producers for the role, but he turned it down, and that could have been fucking interesting.
See, I only know him as a creep.
But John Lithgow is such a good actor. Like, he's like, he's so good at both comedy and drama.
But every time I see John Lithgow in something, he's like a psychopath.
Thank you all for the comfort of your home. Where no one said they were thankful for me. Did you, Jonah? Did you say you were thankful for me, Jonah? What's that?
I did not say I was thankful for you.
Grammer believed that he had failed the audition because no one laughed, but was chosen for the quality of his performance and chemistry with Ted Danson. Frasier, as mentioned, was only supposed to appear in a few episodes before Diane left him, but his performance was praised by series executives, leading to an extended role that continues to this day.
Like, the biggest rollout of Cheers in the end.
Yep. It says here that his character, though, was not universally popular. Grammer would later recall being approached by a fan who asked him, "Are you that pin dick that plays Frasier?"
And that's, yeah, because, like, the vibes that you give off is, like, yeah, that highbrow, snooty asshole. Yeah. And, like, at least, like, well, the clips I've seen of him anyway.
Not to mention as well that he wins, like, you know, the girl away from the main character that people like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things, like, that's why I love, like, the character of Niles Crane, because he's described when they cast him for Frasier. This is what Frasier would have been if he never went to Boston, if he never had, like, you know, the tempering effect that, like, you know, just going to, like, you know, a working class bar every day after work had on him.
Yeah, like if he never got brought down to earth by others.
Yeah.
My Huggle Bunny and my rock.
I think I might throw up.
And we have, like, you know, a couple of things here. So, like, you know, just he's wrong in the show. Like, he gets married, things got sitcom stuff happens, but, like, he's wrong in Frasier spin-off development. So when Cheers ended in 1993, the creators did not plan to spin off the characters from the predecessor because they were concerned that a spin-off might fail. Instead, they wanted to cast Kelsey Grammer as a paraplegic millionaire resembling Malcolm Forbes, a magazine mogul and motorcycle enthusiast. The idea was deemed unsuitable and later scrapped.
I've seen it all.
Dr. Crane, the man is in a wheelchair.
Which means that somewhere, someone is missing a wheelchair.
But he'd, like, you know, he'd be a wheelchair-bound millionaire.
Right, okay.
It says that the idea was deemed unsuitable and then scrapped when the show's creators decided to move Frasier out of Boston to avoid any resemblance to Cheers. The spin-off idea would focus primarily on his work at a radio station. Unfortunately, it resembled an older sitcom, therefore they added in his private life, such as Father Martin and younger brother Niles. Even though, like, in the show Cheers, Frasier says, "My dad is dead, and I do not have a brother." They bring his dad back to life and give him a brother. And they explain it away in the show by saying Frasier just had an argument with his dad and just told everyone he was dead.
Oh, I just assumed that it was like, oh, he was just trying to, like, keep his personal life private.
No, like, and what makes it even funnier, the guy who plays his dad, John Mahoney, appears on an episode of Cheers.
Tune-ups, that's our game. F-R-E-D-S. If you don't come here, that's a shame. F-R-E-D-S. With an F-F here, everybody!
Excuse me, isn't that just old McDonald's farm?
When old MacDonald pays me $200, it'll be old MacDonald's farm.
As a character,
yes, I remember you pointed at that. And aren't they, like, relatively close age-wise as well? Or something?
Like, it was like 20 years between them, I think.
Okay. No, maybe that's something I'm misremembering then. But yeah, I do remember you saying, like, yeah, Frasier's dad is in Cheers, not as Frasier's dad. Even Frasier says his dad is dead, and then Frasier, the show, has that actor as his dad. And it's like, what is going on?
But what makes it really good, though, is that they draw attention to it. Obviously, they've got a lampshade, you know, The term is like, you hang a lampshade on something to draw attention to it. It's like the audience know that you know. Yeah, we know, and just...
All the time you spent swapping bon mot with the beer nut set, you never once mentioned you had a brother?
Like, it's when Ted Danson comes back, oddly enough, like, a guest appearance, like, Frasier told me you were dead. And, like, Martin's like, what? You told him I was dead? He's like, oh, he also said you're, like, a research scientist. And Martin's like, what? And he goes, you were dead, what did it matter?
It's like, no, I just didn't want to talk about you because I'd fell out with you. It's like, yeah, I guess.
You told me he was a research scientist.
You were dead. What did it matter?
We have like characterization and analysis. Frasier Crane is a licensed psychiatrist who is, as Kelsey Grammer himself described, flawed, silly, pompous, and full of himself, yet kind and oddly vulnerable.
Yeah, the clips I have seen, he doesn't seem like this irredeemable arsehole. It's like there's unlikable aspects to him.
Yeah, he tries. Like he's, there's something like his pomposity, but that often bites him in the ass. And a lot of episodes are about him like one of the earliest episodes is where him and his brother are making fun of his dad because he sets to a steak restaurant. And they're saying like the food's not great, the service, like it's like a bit, it's a bit down to earth. And Martin just sits him down and says, "Look, Frasier, I get it. This isn't your cup of tea. Like your mother didn't like places like this, but she would never look down her nose at anybody. And every now and again she'd go out for a beer and have a hot dog. Leave your waitress a nice tip."
Do you ever think, in that point, the dad's sitting there going, "Man, I did a shit job. Both of my sons are just being snooty assholes about going to like a steakhouse."
Well, that's kind of what like the show's all about. Like Frasier is about him reconnecting with his father, and he gets reintroduced to his brother, and then the sequel where it's like his father's now passed on, and now it's Frasier who is the dad, and he's trying to reconnect with his son.
So I was wondering like what it was the impetus for doing a reboot.
Yeah, well, it's just a direct sequel.
Oh, sequel, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's like now Frasier is like the elderly father, and he's trying to reconnect with his son using that life, and now it's like he's now like the elderly father with like the highbrow interest, and his son's just like a working class stiff. Like he's a fireman, I think. I've not got around to watching it yet because I'm currently in the middle of my rewatch of the original run of Frasier, and once that's finished, I'll be getting like into the reboot to see how well it works.
What's going on with your son?
Wish I knew. He's got a girlfriend I've never even heard of. When I told him I wanted to spend more time with him, he said no.
It's just not a good time.
Have you considered that he hates you?
Oh, right, yeah. I was under the assumption that you'd already watched the sequel.
No, I'm in the process of rewatching Frasier now to watch it. And I just thought, it's 2024, there's a new season been announced. Frasier has been a character for 40 straight years, and I thought, that's an achievement, right? Mm-hmm. Then we have a popularity. It is, yeah. According to a 1993 telephone survey, before the Frasier premiere and the Cheers finale, Sam Malone, Ted Danson, scored 26% as a favourite character, and Frasier Crane scored 1%.
Really? Oh my!
He was not a popular character. He's not written to be likable. He was written to steal the main character's girl.
It reminds me of all of the times you see like the anime popularity rankings, and it's very uncommon for the like main character, the MC, to be like number one. I think like sometimes they are, like for example, Luffy in One Piece is really beloved, but a lot of the times like My Hero Academia, Deku's always like. Third, fourth place to like Todoroki and Bakugo and stuff.
Yeah, and say here that when viewers were polled on which character do you think you'd like to watch in a spin-off, 15% voted for Sam, 12% for Woody Boyd, played by Woody Harrelson, 10% voted for Norm Peterson, played by George Wendt, and 29% voted for no spin-off at all. Frasier Crane, whose own spin-off Frasier debuted a short while later, was voted 2%. He got 2% of the vote. And it's now
that
considered
29% got fucking ignored because
now,
like, we need more money, please.
It is considered to be superior to the Cheers show.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I've always heard is that Cheers was popular, but Frasier was the better show.
Yep. Like I said, it's just more wholesome.
Somebody who's on the outside who's not watched them, that's what I've always heard, yeah.
It's more wholesome. It's more wholesome. It's like I say, it's my comfort show. Not to mention as well, like even though it does get kind of ridiculous in some of the scenarios that occur. Like when you watch like older episodes of Cheers, it's that very 80s thing of just it's not believable what's happening.
This looks like a nice friendly place.
Sammy, you're too old to go on a date with two twins on the same night you're supposed to marry Diane without Rebecca knowing.
Okay, Karl, I'll make you a bet. If this affects my major league comeback, I'll sell the bar.
In what sense?
Just why would these people still hang out, for example? And they say here, critical reaction. At the time Cheers originally aired, Rick Sherwood of Los Angeles magazine disdained Frasier Crane and his entire existence as part of the Sam-Diane dynamic. Sherwood found Frasier's frequent appearances in the bar setting, which, remember, is his former girlfriend's former lover's bar. So why is he going every night for a drink in the bar owned by his ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend?
So he still is frequenting the bar even though he has no relationship with the woman anymore, yeah.
And they said that they turned Cheers into being about as believable as conservative Archie Bunker from All in the Family voting for a Liberal Democrat. And that's a reference that not a lot of people at home are going to get, if the analytics on our audience are correct.
That is the one that I have not heard of on a show. I have never heard of.
I could sum up Archie Bunker by saying he was the character on which Cartman was based.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember that era? We could look up Archie, but I'm just going to get the description on Wikipedia if anyone's not familiar. So he's a fictional character from the 1970s sitcom All in the Family and its spin-off Archie Bunker's Place. Bunker is the main character of the series, a World War II veteran, blue-collar worker, and family man. All in the Family got many of its laughs by playing on Archie's bigotry. Yay! Right, okay. Because he's a fucking bigot.
It's weird that a Wikipedia entry is referring to, such as well-known reference TV show from 50 years ago.
Well, to be fair, this is a review from the time, which was quoting this is a review from the time from the 80s, referencing something that was popular in the 70s.
I just thought that was the Wikipedia entry there.
No, it's it's quoting a reviewer who was not happy with Frasier appearing on the show.
Right, yeah.
And you know what? Maybe we can do an episode on Archie Bunker because it's an interesting one. Because it's one of those cases where they wrote him to be wrong. They wrote the character to be in the wrong. It's we're going to write a character who is a racist, xenophobic bigot, and then the comedy will come from them realizing that they are wrong. But they got way, way too many people writing them letters agreeing with Archie Bunker.
Oh, yeah. I think that, if God had meant us to be together, he'd have put us together. Well, look what he's done. He put you over in Africa. He put the rest of us in all the white countries.
Well, you must have told him where we were, because somebody came and got it.
And this is the problem, like I mentioned Always Sunny earlier, of the amount of people I get that are well, I don't like the show because everyone's an asshole. It's
this is Always Sunny.
That's how they've been written. That's the point. And then you get other people who are celebrating the Always Sunny characters of I agree with Dennis. It's if you agree with these characters, you are not in the right. That is what the writers are telling you.
It's that
she doesn't know.
That's not the issue.
Are you going to hurt women?
I'm not going to hurt these women.
Okay.
Why would I ever hurt these women? I feel like you're not getting this at all.
I'm not getting it.
God damn.
And it similarly reminds me of the show Married with Children, where the character played by Ed O'Neill is, again, they were written to be an example. Oh, they're a bad character, they're a bad person. They're sexist, they're not a nice person, but they found way too many people would write fan letters agreeing with the character's really awful, bigoted, sexist takes, and then the show kind of had to swerve towards that audience and double down on him being a piece of shit.
No. And that's another one where I've known the actor from a more recent thing of I'd watched some episodes of Married with Children when I was younger, but not realised much about it. And then watching Modern Family, knew that I knew that actor from somewhere. And eventually, more recently came to the revelation of, that's the guy from Married with Children.
And it is kind of weird as well to see, Ed O'Neill, the character he plays in Modern Family, kind of has, shades of that. He's he's an older man. He has old views from a past time, and it's him coming to terms with a gay son and all, and a wife who wants to take more responsibility in their marriage, and that's why it's called Modern Family. But a cute story I like about that is that when Ed O'Neill first met Sofia Vergara, she was speaking to him in Spanish, and he's I'm really sorry, I don't speak Spanish. He's you don't? No, I'm really sorry. And she said, I thought that you did because I watched Married with Children dubbed in Spanish. So she just assumed that he spoke Spanish.
In my head, he sounded like Antonio Banderas, you know? So when I met him the first time, and I was very, you know, like new in Hollywood because Modern Family was really my first big job, I was a little disappointed. Because he couldn't even say one word in Spanish. He sounded like, you know, nothing.
Amazing.
I just think that's like a really cute like story about when they met.
It's a very fitting story for the characters as well, of like, she's constantly mad like that he doesn't learn about her culture and language and stuff.
Yeah, and then so throughout the show he undergoes a lot of growth and he becomes like, he becomes a better man. But like, it stands in stark contrast with the character of like Al in Married with Children, where he gets worse as the show goes on because they began writing him to appeal to like the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, whereas in Modern Family it's about, as you say, like him growing over time, and like he finds it difficult, but he does his best and he tries to learn.
Yeah, so moving back to Frasier Crane later, while the character became more prominent in the series, inspiring his own spin-off, Frasier, in a 1999 book, Writing and Responsibility, Beverly West and Jason Burgund noted that Frasier's father Martin was supposed to be dead in Cheers, but turns out alive in Frasier, calling it inconsistent with a bout of amnesia, poor script writing, or desperation to elicit more laughter. And I do like that. Like, even all the way back then, people were moaning about this is a plot hole. The cinema scenes ding. It's like, yeah, but it made for a better show. The relationship between Frasier and his dad, and the fact that like they could just write that out with just a joke of Frasier. We had an argument.
Yeah,
and you don't. And the fact is,
him.
You don't care.
And the thing is, it's a much better show for it, as you say. And like, would people rather just this guy have no family at all and no one to like call him out on shit? And it's one of those things of, yeah, they had to retcon it for the sake of the show, but it inherently just makes things more interesting. And he has better relationships for it.
Must be all in my head. But I sensed that you had a problem with me dating Frasier.
Well, if you must know. I'm sorry, what was the question?
That is like just a solid all-round performance. I guess we can end on Lucas. Just, is there any other just outstanding physical performances in a comedy that you want to single out for me, put clips in of? An audience at home, let us know in the comments and on our Discord. We now have a Discord page where you can discuss videos and the podcast, which you can find linked in the description below. So go down there and tell us like other great physical performances by comedians in sitcoms.
I mean, I've mentioned It's Always Sunny multiple times that I can't. If you're going to solo out, like, physical performances,
yes,
can't not just say Caitlin Olsen.
Oh, yeah, I don't understand how Caitlin Olsen is not on the same level as, like, Melissa McCarthy. In terms of, like,
way higher.
That's what I get, because she's way more talented as a physical comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand how Melissa McCarthy keeps getting the roles that I look at and go, Caitlin Olsen will be so much better in any of these roles. Like, all those like crappy Melissa McCarthy comedies, like if you put Caitlin Olsen in that role, it would be way better. Because she's just a way better physical comedian.
Name something that people are afraid of.
Oh, oops-a-daisy. Looks like I broke it.
You think?
Yeah, just there's so many different like clips and stunts and stuff that she does that you can put in where just she is like really fucking good and really fucking funny and just nails it.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I guess I'll just sing like more, I guess more obscure sitcoms that that I'm a fan of, like the older ones like Father Ted, the Ardlo Hannon who plays Dougal Maguire. It's that's the thing. I don't like mentioning it.
It's like the Graham Linehan.
It's like, no. You know what? It was Hatsune Miku wrote it. It's fine. But there is something they point out that Ardlo Hannon has an uncanny ability to turn off his brain. And they talk about how they'll be taking like cast photos and things, and they say, Ardle, can you become Dougal? And it's like, what? And they say, you just do something where like he just unfocus his eyes and just get the face, and then just once it becomes funny.
Dougal, listen to me. There's a bomb on the milk float.
A bomb, right? Who's that for?
No, you're not supposed to deliver to anyone. It's going to go off and kill you.
Like the scene where it's like the cows being far away or close. Like, it would not be sold without that performance of like, he's just not getting it.
Yeah, the thing where he's like that, and he's like really intensely thinking like, no,
I can't understand this concept.
It sounds so simple, right? Just someone like shaking their head.
Okay, one last time. These are small, but the ones out there are far away. Small, far away. Forget it.
But it's difficult to making something like that just funny. Making an action that simple funny is a phenomenal skill.
That entire scene doesn't work if he doesn't sell the confusion.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's so difficult to sell that because it's something that's so absurd. And that's the thing they say, isn't it? Of like, every single year we give like awards out to people for like crying in movies. For dramatic performances, and then every year we see dramatic actors absolutely just die on their ass trying to tell jokes. But then you'll see comedians absolutely nail dramatic roles. It's like it's almost like being funny is harder than being a dramatic actor. Look at Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin Williams is a really good example, and Jim Carrey as well. Of like, he's actually good in his dramatic roles.
Yeah, but he's also a fantastic comedian, and that's the thing. Is like it's almost like being funny is harder than being dramatic. But we keep giving awards for dramatic acting and like awards for comedy. We mentioned like the Emmys and stuff, but there's no like, you don't get an Oscar for being the funniest leading man. You get best leading man. And it's kind of looked down upon as well, but it takes so much skill, and it's like so much acting skills, like you said, to convincingly portray or stay, in character in such and make such an absurd moment seem believable.
And like obviously, Father Ted's an example where it's a little bit, I guess, maybe not believable. It's a little bit over.
You believe the character, though.
Again, like, that character is very believable, and the world is not necessarily believable, but in that kind of over-exaggerated world where everybody is overacting...
Yeah, it's a heightened reality.
Is there. It is a heightened reality, and it's a heightened level of stupidity that you wouldn't believe normally, but
it's a fine line to walk.
Is a bit...
Yeah. It's a fine line to walk because you'd like, it would be the temptation for, lesser actors or lesser skilled comedic actors to overact in a scenario like that. And that's the thing, like, you think about, like, movies that get seen like they're just not funny. Like, a lot of, like, Will Ferrell comedies, like, after, like, Step Brothers and Elf get seen like that, they're just not funny because he's overacting. Like, and
it's not got that sincerity that something like Elf does.
Yeah, and it's like, I think like Step Brothers is a great example as well because you have, who plays his brother now?
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly, who is a dramatic actor. Like, he does theatre work, but he's such a good comedic actor because, he knows that. It's like, I got the line like, why are you sweating? I was watching Cops. it's just such a good line.
Hey. Hey. Why are you so sweaty?
I was watching Cops.
Not supposed to have your feet on the couch.
Oh.
Yeah, it is two adults selling themselves as like children that don't understand the world so well.
Yeah. And I'm saying, but there's like, I said there'd be a temptation to overact. And overacting does have its place in a comedic performance, but just sometimes just doing the understated thing, and it's the little things where you can tell the person is just in that moment the character.
Before you bring it back, you can't mention Step Brothers being funny and not say Catherine fucking Hahn.
Oh, Catherine, of course, yes.
I'm Alice. I'm Derek's wife. Is it true that you struck Derek in the face and he fell from the treehouse?
Yeah. He asked me to.
Oh, that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I want you to know that tonight I am going to pleasure myself to the image of you doing that to Derek. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ.
Just absolutely
so good.
I was going to say, bring it back to like just David Hyde Pierce as Niles Crane. Just some of the little things that he'll do, and then like the reactions to them. Like when he goes to sit down at a table, he doesn't just sit down at a table. Like he'll pull out like a hanky and he'll wipe down the table, and then you'll see like Frasier go. But just, again, just like it's a little moment, but the fact they put that in.
Come, girl, come. Okay. The city streets play havoc with her delicate little feet, so I have to go home and pumice her paw pads.
Yeah, what a show. Looking forward to getting around to that sequel to see if it holds up to, you know, the classic comfort show that Frasier is for me. But until then, maybe we'll cover, like, you know, that specifically in another episode in the future. But as mentioned, you can go check out the Discord to discuss this with ourselves and everyone else who decides to click on that link. Cheers, everybody. See you all next time.
But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face. What is a boy to do? Frasier.